Hello, I just wanted to say before this video starts that this is a complete explanation of my project. It is long-winded and complicated, so feel free to skip through the video or to skim it, it's okay. Uh, this is a complete explanation. If you just wanted to see the project, look at it, watch my tests, and I guess that's pretty much it. Hello, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about testing and explaining my Redstone-based flying machine call system in Minecraft. It took me a few days to debug and fix and apply and make sure that it was correctly working, but it is operating smoothly, and I will now show you in-game. But this is my test rig. Before I explain how it works, I have two stations. This is one station, that's another station. Ignore the redstone. That redstone actually doesn't work over there. You sit in the flying machine and it goes between stations. And as you can see, that was probably, and if for any fairly experienced Minecraft redstone people, it's fairly simple to do to make flying machine stations and things like that. There's not a lot of redstone required. But I've had the idea, but I was testing, and one day I discovered that my flying machine was at the opposite station from where I was, and I thought that was super inefficient, and I did not like that. I thought it was annoying, so I had to go all the way to the other station and get the machine. And as you can see, it's pretty far, so that was annoying. And I thought, wouldn't it be hysterical if I added a call system so that you could press a button and get the flying machine to come over from the other station? So it seemed simple enough, but once I started looking at the redstone, it became apparent that it was not so easy. So here it looks even worse because the redstone is smushed up into a smaller space. But basically the way that it works is each of these has a redstone block attached to it. So both of those as well also have redstone blocks. So the flying machine comes in, and my basic idea when I came up with it was that the block would power a line of redstone that goes down to a trigger. In this case it's a piston. So the piston will fire, it will contract and extend and re-extend, which will update a block and trigger this observer and send off the other one. But what I didn't account for is that the other one can also power this. So since I had a piston-based system, what would happen is the block would update both when the machine entered the station and when it exited the station, which was not good. And that was stopping my thing from working. So to solve that problem, I came up with a solution. I would make a redstone circuit that figured out that when it was coming into the station and when it was coming out of the station, so that you would see, so that it would only let it trigger the other flying machine when it was coming in. So if you can see here, when I send it in, it should. So it sends it off. What it does, this machine figures out, determines that this is coming into the station, so it allows this to go through, and it triggers the other piston. But you'll see when it's not very easy to trigger the station, to trigger the thing while it's in the station. Hold on. So now, this does nothing, and that's important. You see, this turns off. This is the direct line from the redstone block, but this piston ensures that this stays on and is stable because it's leaving the station. If that were to trigger when it was leaving the station, they would both leave, and the whole purpose of the system would be flawed. I'm sorry, I haven't actually done a very good job of explaining why the system has to go like this, because over here you see /weather clear. My Minecraft world has terrible weather. You can see over here, when the passenger flying machine goes in, it needs to trigger this flying machine, the call machine, so that you can call it from the other station. This thing is instrumental in making sure that you can call the passenger vehicle from the other station. This is the thing, when you send it off, when you send it into the station, it triggers this, and this will be this will start going over to the other station. So I don't need it just one way. I don't need the call flying machine to go to trigger that one. I also need this one to trigger that one, because if you're to make sure that you can always call it from the other station, the passenger vehicle has to trigger this so that it'll send it off. So now that I've done a good job explaining, you can sort of see the basic function. The object of this circuit is to make sure when one flying machine goes in, when one flying machine is in its station and the other flying machine enters the station, the first one leaves, and vice versa. So that's so I showed you the basic idea. The redstone triggers the other one, but now I'll sort of explain the more complicated stuff. So this observer, you can see both of them. There are two observers hooked up to each station. The observer observes when this block changes, and the block right in front of the observer only changes when the flying machine enters and exits the station. It changes when the one block of flying machine comes, and it changes when the flying machine observer leaves. So this is hooked up to a circuit here. This is a pulse extender, and there's this extra line here so that the pulse is short, but that's not very interesting. So what this machine does, it takes an observer pulse, which is a little like a pulse. I'll even show you. Most people sort of know, but if I want to, let's just make a quick little thing here. You can see. So quick tutorial about how observers work for anybody who doesn't know. When an observer gets a block placed, it sends out a short pulse. When it gets a block broken, it sends out a short pulse, like that. And that's basically the only thing that it does. Observers, so basically when the block in front of it changes, there are a few other scenarios when that happens, but those are the two basic ones. When a block enters its field of view and when a block exits. And for the record, they only see the blocks in front of their face sides. So every block has 6 sides. Observers only can sense things that are happening on its face, not the sides, the top, or the bottom. So it takes an observer pulse. The observer pulse is from the flying machine, and it triggers these two trapdoors. So the trapdoors will update this block here, and it's another way of triggering an observer. A flying machine works by an observer sending out a pulse and it pushing these slime blocks connected to to this observer, which will update this observer, firing this piston and touching and extending this. So when it extends, it'll grab these 4 blocks because these are connected and retract them. And each time these four blocks or these 4 block moves, the connected observer will update because it's seeing a new block. So that's how it works. And obsidian is an immovable block. I just happened to make this whole circuit out of obsidian, but obsidian is one of the only blocks that can stop an observer from going because it can't be pushed by a piston. Obsidian also happens to not be able to stick to slime blocks, which is important as well. So here you can see that they both trigger, but this circuit ensures that the pulse is short, because if the pulse isn't short enough, then it'll go down, and then both of these will go down because while it's on, and then they'll go back up while it's off, when it turns off. So if this goes back up too late, this flying machine will already have moved to this other station. So I can show you. So if I send like that, I had to do a short pulse. But if I, for example, did something like that and then broke it, you see that it went there, but by the time that I broke it, by the time I turned it off, and this had gone down, and this had gone back up, the flying machine was already over. So this circuit ensures that the pulse that controls these two trapdoors is short enough so that it won't go backward. Okay, and then this part's pretty basic. This just powers this every time it goes between these two stations. This redstone block powers different pistons. It first powers this piston, which turns it on, then it'll move to turn it off. So this is called a flip-flop, and it's a thing in real life. So the function of this is that when it gets an observer pulse, it will turn on, and then it gets another one, and it turns off. And that's important because the first observer pulse, and it's a 2-pulse system, so the first observer pulse will turn it on, which when the machine's coming in, it will allow this piston to contract and extend, which updates the block. But then, so when it turns off, and the block is, when it turns off and the flying machine is leaving, then it will not allow the piston to update the block to be updated, therefore keeping the other one in. I'm sorry, it's getting really complicated, but I think you can sort of understand the way it works. So if anyone really cares, then I can explain it more in another video. But yeah, that's basically the system. And then also here, the whole output of this flip-flop is turning on this piston, because if it turns it on, then even though the direct line from the other flying machine's redstone block turns off, this redstone block keeps it on and keeps the piston in its extended state. Okay. I also wanted to explain. I wanted to give you a tour of these stations because I'm proud of them. So this has nothing to do with the redstone, but this is an archery station. Each of these has a light which is connected to a negative daylight sensor, so it turns on during the nighttime. Then I maxed out an enchantment table and made a bunch of randomly enchanted bows. So you have all of these and this, and then there's a repairing station, so you can repair bows if they get too damaged to use. Then over here I have a mini machine. This flying machine is a vertical one, so it's an elevator, and you can see that the flying machine's not in its space. I could jump down, but that's not fun, and there's no way to get back up. So you press this button, and it should come back up, and then you press it again. So I'm proud of that for being a very simple design. You just press the same button, and you can go back up. This button works the same as well. So you can use this button to send it up or send it down from each floor. So this one also can send it down, and this is pretty simple. I just hooked both of those buttons up, the button in there and the button in there, so that they both trigger both trapdoors, the trapdoor there and the trapdoor there, so that it's very similar to the flip-flop, they both trigger, so the elevator will move to the other floor, regardless of whether it's on the bottom floor or the top floor. And then it's kind of hard to see, but this is some parkour. So over here, I have an interesting thing. So this is a slime block jump. So you go like that, and I failed it because I'm bad at parkour. But basically, what happens is there's tripwire. So when you land here, after a very short delay, just the time it takes for this to get through, it will fire a bunch of arrows, so that you can't just land on this block. You can't just land on this place, because if you do, it'll just shoot arrows at you over and over again, because you'll just keep bouncing, and you'll keep getting arrows shot at you until you die. Then I had a bunch of extra redstone, so I put this tripwire here, so you can't step here or else you'll get killed. So that's that. So that's kind of sinister. Yes, I did this time. I have an elytra on my person, so that makes it harder. But that's that thing. And then I also have one more thing to show you. Here I am at this mysterious temple, and before I show you the most interesting part, I'm gonna show you the inside. So you might be curious, like, what is behind these walls? And that's a wall, but this, you can see, is a mysterious little cavern. So when I was building these, so I built these stairs, it's not naturally generated. When I was building these, I realized I had a bunch of space behind here, so I just added in like a mysterious wall, like little room. And it's actually dark enough that monsters do spawn in there, like not on purpose, they just do. Then in here is some redstone, and it is flying machine redstone. So now I'll show you the actual function of the station. So you walk up these stairs, perfect mood, rainy and scary, and then you press this button and you're on a vertical flying machine. So this flying machine, so I was thinking, since all of my redstone and my stations and everything is in the sky, that I should probably make a way to get up there. So, and I made sure that this was at the other station from the one with all the interesting stuff, so you're forced to take all of my cool redstone contraptions. Oh yeah, and also you can get glitched into the floor just because this has to be here. Then it's interesting, it triggers with water. So if I were to show you, you can see, did you see that? That was water. So it triggers with water because I couldn't figure out a better way to do it. Because if I just did a piston or a trapdoor, the trapdoor would get attached to the slime blocks. So if you see here, there's slime blocks under the lapis lazuli of the actual elevator, so I couldn't use any conventional triggers because they would stick to the slime blocks. So I had to use that. Then here I labeled all of these things. The vehicle availability, that's kind of redundant because you can see the vehicle right here. A toggle vehicle, so this sends it off. Call availability, that's for the call machine, and the call vehicle. Both vehicles don't actually go all the way to the station right now because I'm still testing it. And when I was fixing something earlier, I noticed that this wasn't working properly. It was setting both off, so I still have to fix that. Then I put all this wool here because this is ugly redstone and nobody ever wants to see it, so I made sure that it's covered. I'm also actually considering putting clouds here so that it's super unsuspicious. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it. I have archery station, parkour, vertical flying machines, horizontal flying machines, and of course, my call system. thanks for watching this video. It was pretty hard to make this thing, but I figured it out and I'm super proud of it. So if you want to see any redstone things in the future, be sure to leave a like and comment what you would like to see. That's all for me for today, so thanks for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. If you followed the whole walkthrough, then that's really great. Thanks for paying attention. I love doing redstone, so any subscribing or likes would be greatly appreciated.